I'm thinking that this is going to be my last video because I think I'm going to cover all the material that I want to cover in this video. This video is about death and subset fear, because fear is the number one motivator that we have in our lives. So let's talk about death and fear. I think death is one of our biggest fears. I think it's definitely been the fear that I've had. And because of my age and my health history, I've had to deal with thinking that death might be near. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 4 years ago, and I'm in full remission, but it was close. So I had to deal with prospects of dying and leaving this world behind, and it wasn't fun. But I was still operating from the position of a vulnerable ego. So let's talk about death. But first, we're going to talk about fear. Now remember, I said that we end suffering when we see through the veil of my story and my life. And this is part of that same theme. You see, there is no my story in my life. What those are thoughts. They are very persistent thoughts because we're often self-conscious. And when we are self-conscious, a subtle element of those thoughts will enter our experience. And because they're so familiar and they're so repetitive that they tend to dominate. So this experience of awakening or enlightenment, which we might have read about and go, whoa, I would sure like that in my life. You don't really have that experience because it's glossed over by a wall of thinking. And because of the thinker, the persona, is really one unit, it's one projection. It dominates experience. And it operates so quickly. It's not something you could think away, because if you try to think it away, it's just more thinking. So you're stuck in a continuous loop, which is why this whole awakening process is so elusive. So I actually wrote some notes for today, and I didn't do that in previous videos, which probably mean that this one will be my worst video because it's a little less spontaneous. So I'm going to be consulting some of my notes as I'm speaking here. So we realize that fear is a big part of our lives. We fear all kinds of things. We fear getting a flat tire. We fear going to the dentist. We fear that our kids will fail at school, or when they grow up, they'll reject us. They fear us rejecting them, probably. We fear that life will not live up to our expectations and hopes. Fear is a constant companion. And it's a constant companion because it's the thing that can undermine my life and my story. All those bad things that can happen to us. Death being the baddest thing that can happen to us. So how do we make sense of this? How do we escape this loop? What is it that we can see? Well, guess what? I'm turning a page here. There is a guru in our lives that never leaves us. And that guru is called the present. It's this. This is our guru, the present. Because my story and my life, the projection goes colliding into the present. And what it does is it leapfrog over the present because the present is so boring. My life's projection is so much more fascinating and interesting. It's fascinating to itself. Because remember, it's one whole thought loop. It's self-entertaining. But this present, it's very boring. I got to think of something to do. I'm sort of fidgety here because this is so boring, this present. But yet, here's the interesting insight. This present, well, first of all, it's going to become the moment where you die, okay? But this present is unassailable. It's unstoppable. You might have all kinds of thoughts about my life and our lives and my story, but this is confounding because this has very little to do with your story, unless it happens to be one of those moments where the two merge briefly and then they, of course, will drift apart. Because this thing isn't working with our story. This now thing, yeah, my story is so much more is very much more exciting. Let's face it. So this now is unstoppable. It's our constant companion. It's like if you're walking down the street on a sunny day and you notice there's a shadow walking with you. You can't will the shadow away. You can't will this now away. And here's the really cool thing. No matter how scary and how terrible this now thing, whether it's a horrible stage 4 cancer diagnosis, which leads to your demise, or if it's simply going to the dentist and getting root canal, God forbid, somehow life resolves itself. Now and 1 minute from now, and 5 minutes from now, and 5 hours from now, and hopefully 5 years from now. It just keeps on resolving itself. And this is the story of life. Happens to contain your body mind in it. So all those things we fear, all those worries we have, and many of them can be seen very justified. I've had trouble putting food on the table. And by the way, that siren out there, I live in Manhattan, in New York City, and these sirens are ever present. And know that in nearly all cases, they're not police sirens. People like to think that New York City is a crime-ridden, drug-filled, chaotic, devil-worshipping hellscape. Nearly all of them are ambulances. There are a lot of elderly people living in New York. There's just a lot of people living in New York. And because Manhattan is very narrow, there's only so many streets ambulances can go up and down. So the sirens are omnipresent, 24/7. Anyway, that's an aside. But notice how life deals with that. Life deals with everything. Life is perfect. It addresses all problems. It resolves all problems. It brings all new problems to the fore. Now let's look at the word problem. It's the mind that calls this a problem. It's the my story voice that calls this a problem. It isn't a problem at all for life. There are no problems in life. Everything is resolved. And all the horrible things your mind conjures up, including going to the dentist for root canal, including the possibility I might get a flat tire the next time I'm driving, and then what? It resolves itself. In one way or another, it's all resolved. Life takes care of itself perfectly. There are no problems. You only think there are problems. And you think there are problems because when you have what you call a problem, it is an irritant to the my story, my life. I don't want any problems in my life, my story. I find them irritating. I find problems annoying. I find people annoying. I find these sirens annoying. I find living in New York annoying. I find needing to go to work annoying. I find my kids annoying. I find my dog annoying. I find everything annoying. And hence, you see how your life makes... the life is what makes the hellscape. It's not New York. New York has no problems. It has elements that the my story doesn't like and doesn't approve of. But that's your psychological persona. Now, knowing that the now is unstoppable, what are we to do? Well, what we do is we see through the veil of my life and my story. And again, I ask you now, what would it be like if knowing that you're not your story or my life, that you are instead just whatever this is? We can call it, for convenience sake, we can call it life. This is life. And this is life. And then 10 minutes from now, we can go, oh, this is life. And this is it. It's unstoppable. It's unassailable. There's nothing you can do because there is no self to do anything. Because the self is just a thought. The self can't do anything. This always wins. In fact, it was never a contest. You're not against anything, and nothing is against you. This is just it. This is it. Do you get it? And once you get it, you go, wow, this is pretty amazing. It's kind of a miracle. All of this is a miracle. The fact that we're having this conversation, that's a miracle. And suddenly the miraculous becomes a part of your life. Now the mind will come jumping in. This is boring. You'll get over the miracle phase in 15 seconds. But the more you see this truth, that the now is unassailable, this is it. You keep on thinking otherwise and then taking this weird psychological path away from this. But this will always remind you, nope, your guru is here. Knock, knock. Are you awake? Knock, knock. Capiche? This is the way it works. I throw in that little capiche because, I don't know, I grew up with a little bit of Italian verbiage. Anyway, that's all I want to say. Oh, yeah, regarding death. Let's talk about death for a minute. See, one time in life, death's going to come a-knocking, right? And that too will take care of itself. It'll happen. And then this story really will be over. So just like it was a war cry of the Lakota Indians when they used to go into battle, and they would say it's a good day to die. And in Hindu philosophy, they always urge the students, the meditators, to die before you die. Because if you can die before you die, the whole issue of fear and death is no longer a factor in your life. Isn't that great? Wouldn't that be wonderful? It's not really a factor in your life because you don't have a life. That's just a thought. That thought is very much like a shadow too. It follows you all around. But you don't have to believe it. This is a world where there is no belief. It's just this. There is no belief. It's just this. Imagine a world without belief. And by the way, unbelieving is another belief. This, the guru, is the world of unbelief. This, the bird, the siren, this other computer made a sound. No belief there. It is. It is what is. It is what is. That's the world without beliefs. And that's the answer to all of your questions. Anyway, it's good talking with you. I'm not going to do any more videos, at least not in the next number of months. If you have any questions about this, there's no pathway to here, because here's already here. No pathway. This is the world without belief. It's unbelievable. Anyway, it was good talking with you all. And if you have questions, I always look forward to hearing them. I don't ever get them, but I can ask. And I do ask you to please like this video. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, there will one day be something. There's other subjects I actually probably prefer talking about, especially music and photography. I like photography a lot. And reading. I do a fair amount of reading. So I hope to keep it interesting if I do make any more. That's a big if. Anyway, I don't see you, but I sort of see you. Anyway, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.